It is incredibly bizarre that the President of the United States of America, a few weeks out from the convention, decided to pull out of the race and did not address the nation. So the fact that people would speculate about that, I think, is totally reasonable.
Joe Biden was forced out by his own brain, Ben. Joe Biden's brain did a coup on Joe Biden.
You're on the Titanic and you hit an iceberg and there's a really crappy little dinghy boat in the middle of the water. That boat looks amazing to you in that moment because it's a life raft and it might save your life. That is Kamala Harris's campaign right now.
Brat Girl Summer will not be enough to change the hearts and minds of America's young people because under Kamala Harris, what you will have is a Broke Girl Summer.
Hey fam, welcome back to One and Done. Boy, have we got a full panel for you tonight. We're back on Piers Morgan and so much happening. Kamala Harris, well, Joe Biden's dropped out, Kamala Harris has stepped up, but how long is she going to be there for? Is she a temporary fix? Now they say she's broken all these records with getting $84 million in one day. Isn't that money that's just come from Joe Biden? They seem to be pumping up her story, her narrative. It all sounds familiar. They were doing the same thing to Joe Biden just weeks ago. Anyway, we've got a lot to see in this video. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, share this video far and wide, and without delay, let's roll that tape.
President Biden is alive. That wouldn't normally make for a particularly good headline, would it? But given the state of his health, his abandoned campaign, and his complete absence from public view this week, it came as something of a relief. The president is still yet to be seen since Sunday's bombshell announcement, but he dialed in to a Kamala Harris campaign event last night with a very reassuring message, particularly for Republicans.
And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell, both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning. You know, what we still need to save this democracy. And Trump is still a danger to the community. He's a danger to the nation.
I'm not going anywhere, he says. I'll be out campaigning with Kamala. Well, given his ratings, she might not want him to. In a sign of the awkwardness ahead in this uniquely bizarre and sensational campaign, the ailing president lingered on the call like an elderly grandparent yelling, "You still there?"
You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do. Everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching it, kid.
I'll be watching you, he warns, booming in like the ghost of elections past. Well, President Biden now says he'll allegedly address the nation tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Vice President Harris, meanwhile, is cruising to the nomination. Democratic titans like Nancy Pelosi and St. George Clooney have endorsed her. Donations are pouring in. Now she has the delegates to see off any serious challenges too. The open convention has become more like one of our British coronations. Clearly, I'm not advising her campaign, but I would say the spectre of Joe Biden is probably the last thing she needs right now if she wants to close the gap on former President Trump. Harris will campaign as a black female leader with a compelling message about a prosecutor against a convicted felon. She's 19 years younger than Trump. Like Biden, she can often be incoherent, but unlike Biden, the words coming out of her mouth are the ones she intended to use. As unpopular as she may be at the moment, her candidacy has the potential to stoke the Liberal base and win over voters who saw Biden's campaign as an increasing farce. And that's why Trump supporters should be careful what they wish for. Is it in Republican interests that Joe Biden lingers around like a bad old smell for as long as possible?
Yeah, careful what you wish for. I think there's two parts to this. Look, I would love to see Joe Biden be okay. And I mean that from a health perspective, the fact he's been hiding, that we haven't seen him. I'm glad that apparently he's doing better and he's going to address the nation tomorrow night. At the same time, if he's clearly incapacitated, you need someone to actually be the acting president of the United States of America, not a de facto president, which is what Kamala is right now. Look, there's a yin and yang here. If you see Kamala as president, does it help her campaign? Maybe. But if she's the Kamala Harris that we've learned to know, I think it could also just be a disaster for a presidential campaign. It's truly a coin flip at this point. So, yeah, be careful what you wish for in one aspect of this. But at the same time, it's like, all right, let's see what Harris looks like. I don't believe it's a great product. I don't believe she's going to be a great president if she's filling in. I think she's a disaster when you see her on stage. And I think she's unlikable. And the Democrats decided that in the last presidential primary they had with her. They didn't like her. They didn't vote for it. They didn't support her. They didn't give her money. This is a coronation now. So let's see Kamala Harris. I think she's running the country right now, so let's let her have the job.
Now, here's the thing about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden's got an excuse. He's got dementia. The problem with Kamala, she's like super awkward. The stuff that comes out of her mouth is crazy. And whenever she opens her mouth, you get that secondhand embarrassment feeling.
She did look the part. I mean, she's very telegenic. She's obviously intelligent. She was warm. She cracked some jokes. She had a few zingers about Trump. And whilst everything Ben has said is true, everything changes when you become the presidential candidate for your party. And there is a chance here for the Democrats to have a massive and dramatic reset if she plays it right.
I mean, yeah, and even if she plays it wrong, Piers, I mean, even if she can just end a full sentence and be nominally coherent, she's a much better option for not just Democratic voters, but I think independents and undecideds who obviously see Donald Trump. They know all the drama that comes along with him, and they're like, yeah, let's go with this. Let's take a chance. But look, I think this is a massive win for Trump. I don't understand why the right's not happier. You guys need to be happy. Okay, Donald Trump beat Joe Biden and not a single ballot was cast. Boom. I don't know why this is not more of a cause for celebration. I understand that your Superman does have a kryptonite, which happens to be Black female prosecutors, Tanya Chutkin and Letitia James, Fani Willis, and now, Kamala Harris. But I still think you should just take a win. I love, there's a lot of whining going on and I don't get it. Like, in no world does like a baseball team get to sue another baseball team because like they put in a left-handed relief pitcher instead of a righty and they were prepping for the righty. What's going on?
Yeah, but let me say this in response quickly. It's not whining.
Francesca, she's my favorite lefty. She's super funny, super delusional, but funny at the same time. I like the angle, but it's probably going to get shut down real quick. Now, the mainstream liberal media, they're doing their nana over Kamala Harris, saying how wonderful and amazing she is. People forget very quickly that she lost to Joe Biden in the primaries last go around. Tulsi Gabbard tore her to bits as well.
This is different, and Republicans know it's different because, number one, the media is about to give $1 billion to $2 billion in in-kind donation to the Harris campaign with a 30-day Democratic convention telling everyone that she is amazing. Number two, perspectives change. If you're on the Titanic and you hit an iceberg and there's a really crappy little dinghy boat in the middle of the water, that boat looks amazing to you in that moment because it's a life raft and it might save your life. That is Kamala Harris's campaign right now. You're compared to a ship that's going down, and the only thing that can possibly save you is that crappy little ship in the sea, which you'll be in love with for the next 3 or 4 months. So
wait,
it's
hang on,
not
Ben,
whining, it's
analogy,
just knowing,
knowing
what's going to happen here.
So I love your analogy, and let me just double check that.
Does that mean that
does that mean that Donald Trump is the iceberg?
Hang on, Francesca. Let me get Dave to respond to that.
That's not what I said, and I think you know that.
Exactly. She's like a life raft. She's the only thing that people can cling to at the moment to give them some slight little bit of hope. Like I said before, the mainstream liberal media, they are going absolutely crazy over Kamala. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, they were saying, no, she ain't going to cut it. And don't forget, these are the same people that were telling you that what you were seeing and what you were reporting about Biden was cheap fakes. That wasn't true. That's ageism. And now they expect us to believe them about Kamala.
Okay, Dave Smith.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that there's a lot of relief amongst Democrats right now because they were very concerned with the problems that Joe Biden has as a candidate. The issue is, look, there's a reason why we've all been speculating about Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton. And from the very beginning, when there was always a question mark over whether Joe Biden would make it or not, there is a reason why people skipped over Kamala Harris as the next option. And the reason is because she's a deeply unpopular vice president. She has never been a great political candidate. And the reality of the situation is that despite the enormous spin that's going on right now, it is not true that Joe Biden made some decision that his country is more important than him. He fought everyone until the very bitter end. Kamala Harris has a serious uphill battle right now to try to beat Donald Trump. She's only got a few weeks till convention. I'm not saying this as a Trump supporter who's whining. I'm just looking at the situation in front of me. Donald Trump is the overwhelming favorite right now.
Dave summed that up beautifully. Yeah, she's like a rewrap. You know when you get that Christmas present, it's like, Old Spice or something like that. Pair of socks. Hell, even some chocolate if it's not expired. You're going to re-wrap it and re-gift it. That's basically what she is. She's been re-wrapped. They're trying to present her as new, but no. She's the same old blundering idiot.
4 months is a very long time in politics. We've just seen what can happen in 3 weeks. 3.5 weeks ago, there was the debate to come, and Joe Biden was telling everyone, I'm going to take Trump down at the debate. Well, 3.5 weeks later, he's gone. So anything can happen here. What's your reading, Joe, of where we are?
And Piers, I agree 100%. We are living in unprecedented times. I mean, the past 8 to 9 years. 3.5 years ago, a sitting president lost an election, and he still hasn't conceded. And he tried to overthrow an election. You're right. We had an assassination attempt on a president just a few weeks ago. So, these are crazy, unprecedented times. Look, this isn't complicated. I don't want Trump back in the White House, but he's winning right now. He's got a comfortable lead. Joe Biden wasn't going to beat him. The Democrats found another candidate, and she has a legitimate shot at challenging him and beating him. I think the factor that all of us have underestimated, no matter where you stand on her as a candidate, is the enthusiasm. There was zero enthusiasm for Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, any other candidate, would have generated huge enthusiasm. That's a wild card. That's all. That's a wild card.
See, I think this is another spin. What do you guys think? I think what's happened is Joe Biden's donors have basically just transferred that money to Kamala Harris. They're not actual new donors. The money's just been shifted from Biden to Harris. Again, they're beating this story up. They're beating it up. It's a nothing. It's a nothing burger.
Clearly, the Democratic machine is now pouring behind Kamala Harris. That will in itself energize the race in a way that Donald Trump would not have had to have dealt with if it was still CP Joe Biden. So I think there's a new challenge for him. If I was advising Trump, but I'm not, but if I was, I would say to him, be very careful about going too ad hominem on Kamala Harris. I would stick to her policies. I would stick to her record. This is a woman who believed in defunding the police. This is a woman ultimately who was made the immigration czar and said, don't come in. And 8 million people came in, right? So there are lots of ways that you can go after Kamala Harris about her record. I think if Trump tries to do what he often does and go ad hominem with her, it could backfire.
Sure. Look, I think this is a blessing that she is now going to be the nominee, that this isn't going to be an open convention. Because otherwise, who are you campaigning against for the next 30 days to the convention, right? You do 20% of the time with Kamala, 10% with Gavin Newsom, 5%, with Shapiro. I mean, this was going to get really complicated. Now Joe Biden is gone. Donald Trump knows who he's running against. It's Kamala. You stick to her record and why she's so unpopular with the Democratic Party. But this is also, Piers, so different. The media, it was so depressed. The Democratic Party was so depressed. The donors had dried up the money for Joe Biden. They forced him out. Some would even describe it as a soft coup, where if you don't resign 25th and you're going to have some serious problems, he goes into hiding. Any other country this happens, our State Department say, we think there might be a coup attempt going on in another nation. And now we're at this reality. And I think what Democrats understand is this is their lifeboat. This is their second chance at holding on to power. So every mega donor says we want to keep power. Everyone in and around the White House that knows Kamala, we want the power. Every congressman that's running for re-election desperately needs a better candidate. Up ballot matters to down ballot races. And every other senator wants to keep power. So they are all in. And that's why every poll that's out right now is completely and utterly worthless. It means nothing. Do I believe that Donald Trump has a lead? Yes, but it's worthless because this is a total reset. It's a completely new race we've never seen before in American political history. It is a race to the finish. It's going to be something we've never witnessed. Now, if you're Trump, you stick to the basics. The economy's stupid. Kamala Harris is Joe Biden 2.0. She's unpopular, and she's going to give you exactly what you just saw for the last 4 years. But he has got to stay focused, because the one thing I'll say is the media is going to treat Kamala Harris like she's Princess Diana for the next 3.5 months. They will never betray her. She is now a beauty queen, and they love her.
Well, you can see that, and it does feel like a coronation. That may not be the smartest move by the Democrats to make it look like they've basically ridden roughshod over democracy to make her the queen. Joe, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just quibble on that one point, Pierce. Look, a coup is when you lose an election and try to overthrow it. That's a coup. A president deciding not to run. No, hold on, Ben. Let me finish, then jump in. A president deciding not to run is not a coup. And this notion, Pierce, of a coronation, Biden decided not to run. Any Democrat could have thrown their hat in the ring. This isn't an election. It's a primary. The primary voters pick delegates. The delegates at the convention pick the nominee. This is not a coup. And any other Democrat could jump in and challenge her.
It's definitely a soft coup. Okay, Biden was pushed, maybe even shoved. He was definitely pushed, that's for sure. Definitely at least a soft coup. But here's the problem with these people on the left. They don't have any policies, so they keep talking about January 6th. They really, this is really their fallback. They have nothing else.
I read this yesterday, and it came from an elected official, and it said, quote, if this was happening, referring to what's happening now politically, in any other country, the State Department would be calling this a coup attempt. The president in hiding, president, no pictures of him, letterhead that doesn't have a presidential seal, a signature that's been underlined that the president doesn't typically do, and yet we're acting like this is normal. Joe Biden was forced out. There was something that happened to him, whether it was medically,
Joe Biden was
when he was
forced
flying
out
back
by
from
his
Vegas.
own brain, Ben. Joe Biden's brain did a coup on Joe Biden.
Leave. He didn't want to leave. He did not want to leave. Days before, he was saying, I'm in this, I'm in this. And I think this was clearly the cabinet and other Democrats that said, you're either going to leave or we're going to force you out. You are done. And now we've got a president that's going to talk to the nation tomorrow night. I'm sorry. But this happens in another country. We'd all be talking about it this way, but we're acting like it's normal. This is not normal.
You know what's so funny about you, Ben? What's so funny about Republicans is that this would never happen because their God Emperor Donald Trump can literally do whatever he wants, and no Republican would ever step out of line to criticize him. No one would step out of line to say you shouldn't be president anymore. And you're so jealous that Democrats actually hold their own accountable. You're so jealous that we'd actually be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't run again.
I'm not jealous.
The entire party right. It's just so funny. It's like, if you lose in November, you're going to run him again.
You tried to put him in prison. You tried to put him in prison. You tried to take his property. And then they tried to kill him.
Oh, damn. Ben's called him out. You tried to kill him. Political persecution. Now you're trying to kill him. And Francesca saying we're going to run Donald Trump again back in 2028. According to them, he ain't going to leave. He's going to do a Joe Biden.
Ben, who tried to kill Trump?
A radical young 20-year-old. Tried to kill him. And everybody's like, well, I love this the other day. They're like, well, what's the motive? He wanted to kill Donald Trump. That's the motive.
Ben, careful. You said they. They tried to kill him. Who's they?
People that hate Trump. People that hate Trump.
Wait.
That's what I'm saying. It's very simple.
A 20-year-old kid did it, right? A demented, lonely 20-year-old kid
who hated Donald Trump. People that hate Trump, that want to put him in jail, that want to take all of his things. They tried to overthrow the will of the people in the first election.
It's day.
Walsh. Walsh. Go back to the very beginning.
Let me jump in. I just want to say this. We don't actually know the motivation of the shooter, but if you want to look for blame as to how this 20-year-old deranged kid with an AR-15 was able to unload 8 bullets at President Trump, it's because the Secret Service dropped the ball in such spectacular fashion and left President Trump exposed so badly, which could have led to him being killed and should have done, really. It was a miracle that he survived, that the director of Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, has today resigned or probably been fired. That is probably where my main blame would go, is their failure to protect the president.
Yeah, what do you think about the Secret Service DEI hire? Took her so long to quit, but the writing was on the wall, the heat was there, everyone was asking, bipartisan. People on the left, people on the right, people in the middle, they all wanted her sacked. She said the buck stopped with her, the responsibility was with her, It's not the type of job you can come back and go, do you know what? I messed up on Friday, I'm going to fix everything up on Monday. There was a few millimeters in this huge mistake. Now, when I say there was a few millimeters in this huge mistake, I'm overlooking the fireman that lost his life, the hero for saving his wife and children. And also there was at least 2 or 3 people injured. The other thing that started to come out, I don't know if you've noticed, is that apparently there was 2 shooters. Someone's analyzed the audio tapes and has been able to identify 3 gunmen. The attempted assassin, the sniper on the roof, and there's a 3rd shooter apparently. So a lot more to unfold, I'm guessing.
You wanted to get in there. You were aghast about something. I'm not quite sure what it was.
Well, look, okay, there's just a couple things here. First of all, I do understand why people object to the use of the term coup. However, for Joe to say, well, this was just Joe Biden made a decision, that's pretty misleading also. The truth is that Joe Biden did make his decision. His decision was to stay in the race. He made this very, very clear. Up to Sunday morning, on the Sunday morning news shows, campaign surrogates were going out saying he's staying in the race. It's Biden versus Trump. Now, it's not exactly that he made a decision. Big donors and political operatives and the corporate press all turned their back on him and said, we are going to force your hand. And essentially, he was forced out. On top of that, look, I'm not claiming to know anything that we don't know. It is incredibly bizarre that the president of the United States of America, a few weeks out from the convention, decided to pull out of the race and did not address the nation. Now, you can say he had COVID. I don't care. He's the sitting president of the United States. For it to come out on personal stationery and then in a tweet, he endorses Kamala Harris, and now we're being told we're going to hear from him tomorrow night. That is just incredibly bizarre, and it is understandable why people speculate about what was really going on behind the scenes. The truth is that none of us really know what type of internal pressure was put on Joe Biden, what type of threats were made. So the fact that people would speculate about that, I think, is totally reasonable. On the other point, the idea that Republicans would never question Donald Trump. He's their God emperor. They would never think about another nominee. The problem with this narrative from the left is that it just, reality flies in the face of it. Look, there was a National Review entire issue dedicated to never Trump in 2016. Mitt Romney, the previous nominee, came out and gave a speech, anyone but Donald Trump. This year, all of the big donor money was going to DeSantis and Nikki Haley. All of the powerful forces within the Republican establishment have been trying to get anybody else except Donald Trump. The difference between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump, however you feel about him, has tens of millions of Americans who love him and want him to be the nominee. And there's no Democrat who has anything like that.
Dave's on fire tonight. Absolutely. If anyone's got any grassroots support, it's Donald J. Trump. People are coming to his rallies. Tens of thousands at a time are coming to his rallies, supporting him. People are coming out of the woodworks, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere, because they're able to compare these presidents side by side. Let's compare Donald Trump's 4 years to Biden's 3.5 years. Now, Kamala is not going to be able to get that sort of support, even if she provides yellow buses, electric ones.
CJ Pearson, can you tell me what brat means, given it's the word that's all over the news, and you're probably the only one young enough on the panel to know what it means, apart from Francesca?
As the resident Gen Zer here, it seems as if Kamala Harris is having a brat girl summer, which actually means that she actually doesn't know what's going on. It's a state of deliriousness. It's a state of delusion. It's like you're just going along to get along, but that's kind of how Kamala Harris has led her entire political career. She's just been a coconut falling from a coconut tree. She just lands in a place and hopes that the American people will go along with it as this coronation has taken place. Dave absolutely hit all the right points. Donald Trump went through a spirited Republican primary process where he knocked every single one of them out one by one. What's happening right now, which is so ironic and so hypocritical, is that the party that is supposedly so against voter suppression is now disenfranchising millions of Democrat voters who voted for Joe Biden to be their nominee. They bullied a senile old man out of office just so that they could have a chance at winning in November. It's disgusting, it's wrong, it's anti-democratic, and dare I say it's a threat to democracy.
Yo, you should vote Joe Biden. Vote Joe. You should bring him back into the race.
Hang on.
Defend him.
Oh, there hasn't been a truer word spoken. Delusional, that's Kamala. Another name I heard, I can't even repeat it on YouTube. I better not say it. No, I can't say it. I better not.
I think Republicans and Trump are panicking, and I think you've seen it in the last 10 or 20 minutes. If they want to run, if the PR play for Republicans wants to be that Democrats are a threat to democracy, that Democrats are doing something undemocratic, Donald Trump and Republicans like CJ Pearson want to run on that, I think Democrats are in a great position in November. They have nothing. And to the last point about, everybody in this party has to bend the knee to Donald Trump. CJ Pearson would not be sitting where he is if he didn't go and praise Donald Trump and have a Trump banner in his header. I mean, CJ's somebody who in his primary election that he lost, he called voter fraud against his Republican counterpart. And so, in the Democrat world, we've had fierce debates about our candidate, and it's been hard. But we have values and morals that actually matter over just bowing the knee to one man. And so I think Democrats are in a great position, and she's clearly popular because she's fundraised more money than anyone in political history.
Look, I can't really take him serious until he reaches puberty.
Kamala Harris is nothing more than a pandering shadow. And she is in the same situation that Joe Biden is in. She is not running the show whatsoever. And what she'll realize is that Brat Girl Summer will not be enough to change the hearts and minds of America's young people, because under Kamala Harris, what you won't have is a Brat Girl Summer. What you will have is a Broke Girl Summer as a result of the runaway inflation that we're experiencing under the Biden-Harris administration, as a result of the record high gas prices we've seen under their administration. Their leadership is absent of any leadership.
Two things I'll push back on. The idea that it's a coronation. Once again, in 2020, panel, how many primary challengers did incumbent President Donald Trump have?
Me
None.
And two other.
Why? Because he was the incumbent president. This is an incumbency, right? And so the idea that this is like, how dare they? It's not democratic. No, Harris is the effing vice president, been on the ticket since Joe Biden was elected back in 2020. Obviously, people thought he was going to be the incumbent and run again. Then his brain did a coup on his body and himself and his whole campaign. And here we are where we are. The other thing about the donors, I think it's very funny, because the reason that Donald Trump on the other side picked your boy J.D. Vance, even though he hates facial hair, is because J.D. Vance came along with a bunch of venture capitalists, guys like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Horowitz, to absolutely help this campaign out with all of their AI-funded tech crypto billionaire money that wants to put us all out of a job. In 3 years, this will just be a panel of AI experts, and honestly, God bless them.
What's Francesca talking about? Donald Trump hates facial hair? Don't both his sons have facial hair? Just like when they said he was anti-Semitic. But his kids are Jewish. The left, they just love making stuff up.
When you look at Kamala Harris, like I said, if Trump goes ad hominem, which is his normal preferred method of attack on any opponent, I think it could backfire. However, there is lots of stuff on Kamala's record which I think he can really pick her off about. Most notably, the fact that she's been the immigration czar for the United States of America for the last 2 years, when immigration has been running completely out of control. And if I was Trump, I'd just keep asking her, didn't you just have one job? Wasn't that the job you had to do? And even when she was asked, have you been to the border? She came out with this extraordinary response, well, I haven't been to Europe either, as if that was anything relevant to the discussion. So I think the way she's handled the one thing she was given special responsibility for, if I'm the Republicans, I'm going after that morning, noon and night.
You go to Europe on holiday, vacation. We're talking about border security here, talking about tens of millions of people coming across. Well, at least 10 to 15. And not only all the people coming across, the money the cartels are making and the impact on these children and women. Not to mention drug deaths.
No, Piers, I think you're absolutely right. I think we do, find ourselves, in a hole when we continue to talk things about, her sexual history or all of those things. I think there's no need to discuss those things. I think there are a lot of other things that are disqualifying about Kamala Harris, including her blatant hypocrisy. She locked up countless of nonviolent young black men for smoking weed, only to go on the Breakfast Club and brag about how much weed she smoked. This is also someone, as you said, who was in control of our national security as it relates to the border and absolutely dropped the ball there time and again. She has shown that she is not deserving of a promotion. The only reason that we are even having this conversation about her as a nominee of the Democrat Party, aside from a coordination, is because she's a DEI hire. She was a DEI hire when she became vice president because he had to get black women on board with this campaign. They couldn't skip over Kamala Harris because they were afraid of upsetting black women if they did so. That is exactly why she bided her time. She covered up the fact that, Joe Biden was mentally unfit and mentally unwell and mentally incapable of carrying on the banner of the Democrat Party because she knew that she could not win an open Democratic primary herself. She knew that she did not have the fortitude to do so. And we saw that. It was demonstrable in 2020. She didn't win a single primary state. She didn't even make it to Iowa, Piers. And if you think that if she can't beat Pete Buttigieg and all of those folks, Tulsi Gabbard, you think that she can beat Donald J. Trump after what he has endured, after the feckless prosecutions, after the attempted assassination? Then, I've got some great real estate in Alaska to tell you. It's insane.
Great points by CJ. I mean, the media is coming out now and saying that Donald Trump's scared of Kamala Harris. Scared of what? He destroys everybody in front of him. No one's beat him in a debate yet. If anything, he's lost the debate himself if he's ever lost. But he won't lose to this. Because she lost to... what's his name? Joe Biden. Trump losing a debate against Kamala? He's just come out today and said he'll debate her at least twice.
Significantly, amongst young people, a big gap between them. And a lot of that people are putting down to the fact that young people actually did feel that what Trump did when he was shot was a remarkably ballsy thing. And it became a really big social media sort of emblem of defiance and strength and courage and all these things, which were things that maybe young people hadn't associated with Trump. But suddenly they saw this image of him punching the air, blood all over his face, surviving an assassination attempt. And they thought, you know what, that's, as Mark Zuckerberg said, probably the first time in his life, that was badass by Trump. How significant do you think the failed assassination attempt is going to be, particularly with young people?
Well, I think that it helped Donald Trump tremendously. I think it's one of those things where it's like I remember going to the opera with my wife, and I've never been to the opera before. But when you hear like an unbelievably talented singer at the opera, you're just like, whoa, that's incredible. It's almost an involuntary reaction. And there is something about seeing someone while there's bullets spraying, they don't even know if they're hit yet, and they're given the fist. If you despise Donald Trump, I think most people would admit, yeah, that was a good moment for him. He looked good there. I think to the point that you guys were making before, again, look, I'm a libertarian, and so I already know I'm going to lose. So I kind of have an advantage on some of you guys. Like, I'm not married to either side here, but I think people blind themselves with narratives when they're all in on one camp. And to hear you guys, the Democrats on the panel saying like, oh, the Republicans are in freak out mode or something like that. Guys, you literally just removed your candidate to go with another candidate after years of pretending that the emperor had clothes, while the rest of us were all talking about the guy who was clearly suffering through severe cognitive decline. Finally, you guys had to admit it. You pulled him out there. You're now going with a deeply unpopular vice presidential candidate. Look, good luck, but it's a big uphill battle. The fact is that the spin now is that it was just Joe Biden's age. That was the only issue that he slowed down. The truth is that if you look at every single poll, the two big issues here are the economy and immigration. I'm not a kid. I don't understand any of your black girl summer references. I don't know what brat means, okay? I'm a dad in my 40s. We've lived through, over the last couple of years, the worst price inflation in my life and the worst immigration crisis in my lifetime. This is a major problem. Kamala Harris is married to this administration, and Donald Trump's got a lot of red meat to run against. That's what this election's going to come down to, and it favors Trump.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, you want to respond to that?
Dave's spitting facts again. Now, one thing that's really interesting, he said he doesn't have a dog in the fight. He's going to lose as a libertarian, which is really interesting. So he doesn't have an emotional attachment as such. And being pro-family that I am, I reckon that if you're married with children, maybe your vote should count as 3 or 2. But people that don't have children, they're under 25, they're not allowed to vote, or it's half a vote. Because they don't have any dog in the fight, because it's just about them. They don't care about anyone else. Just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, as a Gen Zer, I just disagree with this. This consistent notion that Kamala Harris is unpopular. Again, yesterday we saw the largest fundraising day in American political history through Act Blue. Grassroots donors, $5, $10, $25. Gen Z is excited for a candidate objectively that's younger, a woman, and somebody who's been like a champion on things like climate and gun reform, etc. And I think that Gen Z specifically is a generation, me, myself, I've never seen America at peace. It's been nothing but chaos since I was born in 2002.
Thank you, President Joe Biden,
and we're looking back now and saying, wow, this is really at a boiling point. And what has caused this? And what's caused this is Trump and the MAGA movement doing nothing but pushing division all the time with the lies and the disgusting, hateful rhetoric. And I think that Gen Z is fired up to move on, to get candidates that actually care about us.
What the hell's this dude talking about? He's been around for 5 minutes, and all the wars he's seen is either Obama or Joe Biden.
But what about the hateful rhetoric from the left to the right? For example, for 8 years, I've heard people on the left, from the top down, refer to Trump as the new Hitler, as Adolf Hitler, as if somehow he's presiding over a Nazi-style regime, which, if you're too young to remember, perhaps, but the Nazis killed 12 million people, including murdering 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So it's hard to imagine a more offensive or vile slur or more hateful rhetoric than to compare Donald Trump, who's done none of those things, to Adolf Hitler. So do you accept that people on the left have been just as guilty of hateful rhetoric and contributing to the general toxicity of the debate as people on the right?
Sure, but I do want to point out that, the person who's actually called Donald Trump's America's Hitler is J.D. Vance, his current running mate. J.D. Vance was someone who is very staunchly
that was wrong too.
If you look at elected officials across the board, Democrats have consistently been the ones to calm the tensions. And look, I disagree with calling him America's Hitler, but if I call Donald Trump a dictator or a threat to democracy, I think it's almost dishonest to not call him that. This is somebody who tried to overturn an election he didn't win with evidence that he didn't win it. And so I don't understand how it's hateful to say that he's a threat to democracy or he's moving us toward authoritarianism. And again, I think that the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who said things like he's America's Hitler goes to the fact that, you have to give up all your morals and all your values and bow to Donald Trump in this party.
Spoken like a paid shill.
Piers, just a couple quick points. To Dave Smith, I appreciate the fact that he's a dad in his 40s. I'm a dad in my 60s. Look, I don't belong to either party. I'm not a Democrat. Dave and I probably agree on most policy issues. The difference is I think Trump is a unique existential threat to our democracy. So I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. Piers, to you made a great point early. You said we're living in unprecedented times. A month ago, an 81-year-old candidate for president had a debate and showed that he was not at all ready to continue to be a candidate. He was too old. And the entire Democratic Party rightfully panicked. It is a party process. It's not an election. The party convinced him to step aside, and he made that final decision. This is how the process in each party works. There's nothing undemocratic about it.
Yeah. I just want to say that I think it is wrong to compare Donald Trump to Hitler.
Yeah, Francesca,
I agree. I think it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to compare him to someone, it's obviously Mussolini, okay? Much more of a showman, great jawline. I think that is where it happens. And look, Donald Trump by his own admission said he would be a dictator, but only on day one. So guys, let's just listen to him, take him at his word.
But the problem, Francesca, listen, here's the problem. Funny though your quip just was, and maybe you meant it or not, the truth is, I've just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the result of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not president of the United States. He had to go that day.
Have you read?
And he's dodging
First of all, we know.
So the checks and balances did work.
I mean, I don't understand. We know you talk to Trump regularly, Piers. I'm surprised you don't have a white bandage on your ear right now, honestly. And we've seen and we've read all 920 pages of Project 2025, and in it says that instead of the police, the military should be patrolling the streets.
Which the president has disavowed time and again.
That is
the president has said that he does not support Project 2025.
Even though every single person who wrote it was a former Trump advisor. Come on, give me a break. Stephen Miller is an
President Trump himself has said that he does not support Project 2025. We're supposed to think that you believe more about what President Trump believes than what he has said himself he believes. It's
CJ,
crazy.
Oh, you know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
If you want to see what President Trump believes, go to donaldjtrump.com, read Agenda 47.
What's in his heart?
Read Agenda 47.
How about this? How about we don't go with what's in his heart and we go with the 4-year track record? I mean, the problem here is that, and look, to your point, obviously the rhetoric on both sides has been elevated tremendously over the last few years. It's been very divisive times in this country. And both sides are guilty of this or right to do it, however you look at it. But people do lose their collective minds when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, these comparisons, the idea that he's some Hitlerian figure is ridiculous. Even the comparisons to Mussolini, this is all silliness. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well, but these are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing in. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to 11 as if there's some existential threat to the republic that isn't, by the way, you want to know the real existential threat to, hold on just 1 second, let me finish. The real existential threat to our republic right now is that debt is over, the interest on our debt is overtaking our entire budget. And this is something that Democrats and Republicans are both guilty of. So they don't want to talk about that because it's, it condemns both of them. But the reality of the situation is that whatever happened on January 6th that got out of control, there certainly was violence there. Donald Trump got on a plane and went back to Mar-a-Lago. He was never calling in the military. There was never a chance that he was going to institute a dictatorship in the United States of America. This is all election nonsense. And I'll tell you something. Democrats, you better figure out something else to run against, because this whole Kamala Harris is a prosecutor and Donald Trump is a felon. The American people have rejected this already. No one cares about these charges that wouldn't have been brought to any other former president, okay? This isn't going to do it. You got to have something of substance. The problem is what you guys could actually run against is that Donald Trump was such a disaster through all of 2020, and he kept Fauci on the job, and he kept Americans locked down. The problem is you guys were criticizing him for not locking down harder. So I don't know what angle you're going to find. There's plenty of flaws on him. The problem is you guys are worse on most of the issues he's bad on.
David, be better than that. Quit saying you guys. Everybody opposes Donald Trump for their own reason. Quit saying you guys. And I'm sorry, quit saying those of us who do believe, and you can disagree, Dave.
You guys always bring up January 6th, so it is you guys. You're a Democrat, buddy. You just said you will vote for any Democrat. You'll vote against Trump. That is crazy. That is ludicrous. No matter how incompetent they are, you would vote for them. So yeah, you're one of them guys.
Those of us who do believe Trump is a unique threat to democracy, quit saying we've lost our minds. Come on, man. I haven't lost my mind.
You've absolutely lost your mind.
I'm old.
Wait, absolutely lost your mind.
Hold on, CJ. Let me finish, CJ. I'm older than you, Dave and CJ. In my lifetime, I've never seen a president lose an election and refuse to concede. I've never seen a president try to overthrow the results of that election. You can disagree with the severity of that.
But Joe, hold on 1 second. But let's just be real specific here. Hold on.
January 6th, 2021. Real specific for you, my guy.
Wait, this is Dave and CJ, I feel like are not willing to look into the deeper aspects. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who's had a whole fake electors plot. sent fake electors to my state of Georgia and tried to, essentially take the will of the people away. He had the Department of Justice in the Oval Office demanding that they sign a letter that with a DOJ header that said they believed there was election interference, and 2 DOJ officials resigned over that. Again, it is so dishonest to say that Donald Trump was normal, or that people are losing their minds when they say he's a threat to democracy. I mean, he tried and went through every single illegal and legal action to overturn the election. And why people are freaked out is because if you have another Trump presidency where he could install loyalists, all of a sudden those checks and balances
let me just, because you guys are making different arguments here, but let me
invalidated under
hang on, don't talk over each other.
The Constitution.
Dave and CJ, let me just make one more point.
Finish CJ, and then I'll come to Dave, and then we'll wrap.
I'll shut up for good. One more point. It's now Kamala Harris against Donald Trump.
Joe.
It's Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris loses in November, Kamala Harris will concede and she'll accept the will of the people. If Donald Trump loses in November, he won't and he won't. That is a threat.
Well,
I just want to.
Okay, but look, here's the, okay.
Piers,
if I were to say, and I want honestly,
they have not
Piers,
learned their lesson.
Hold on, let me just respond to.
Let Dave respond, then I'll come to CJ.
So if I were to say right now, I want to overthrow democracy in the United States of America and institute a dictatorship, I don't think anyone on the panel is very freaked out by that, because I have no power to do it. Like, it doesn't really matter if I want to do it or not. Now, I will kind of agree with you guys. I just thought the way Trump handled the 2020 election was terrible. I did think he was kind of using like bully tactics when he called the Secretary of State in Georgia there. But the bottom line is that he had no mechanism to actually overthrow democracy, and it was a totally like impotent attempt to even do it. So listen, hold on, let me just finish, because I let you guys go for a second. Let me just finish making my point here. This is the problem with you guys going to this well over and over again. It was never actually a threat to overthrow democracy. If you want to talk about people who haven't accepted the results of elections, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey Abrams, they all have said these were illegitimate elections or there was outside interference. There is nothing. Look, you guys are, listen, just hear me for a second. Consider, yes, they conceded. Okay, so they conceded and he didn't. Okay, so by the magical power of saying I concede, that somehow makes us a democracy and not a dictatorship. You guys are obsessing over this thing that most Americans don't actually care that much about.
I agree. We've got to leave it there. We've run out of time. Great panel.
Facts.
Thank you all very much indeed, and come back soon. I appreciate it.
Dave's the pick of the bunch on the panel. He's owned the liberal arguments there. Donald Trump is not a threat to democracy. Not a threat to democracy at all. Like Dave said, if you keep going back to that well is well and truly dry. There's nothing left. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the news media handle this going forward with Kamala. They're going to still continue to pump her up. I think they will. People have come out like Vivek Ramaswamy and said she ain't going to be around. And because she's a DEI hire, she ticks a few boxes. She's female. She's partly black. She's partly Indian. She's partly, I don't know, something else. They can't just kick her out. They can't put someone over the top of her like Gavin Newsom because he's a white man. So they got to let her fall over by herself before they replace her. I guess only time will tell. Let me know your thoughts. Drop your comments in the comments section. I'll jump in there as I normally do. Don't forget to hit that like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll definitely catch you in the next video.